All right, very good. Hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Hello.
Steve, you see my screen over there?
I see your screen. Trading Ideas, Trading Studio.
All right, and
Good.
thanks for everybody for coming. We'll see you later. That's my attempt at
Good night.
humor. Okay, so everybody can see my screen, so that's excellent. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy day to come hear what we have to say today. We've got some good stuff to show you guys. Before we get started, though, let's take care of the lawyer speak. Just want to make sure that everybody out there is aware that we're not registered investment advisors here at Trade Ideas. Everything that we're going to share with you here today is for educational purposes. So please don't take what we share with you here today as a solicitation to buy or sell anything. You know, if you need that type of service, there's a plethora of registered investment advisors out there that can help you do that type of stuff. All right, on to the good stuff. So kind of sketched out the agenda here today. We're going to talk about, you know, where we are in the market, as we always do, because that's a little piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle, but it's certainly a piece of it. And then we're going to go over the Trade Ideas methodology, where we find the action and capitalize on the action. And then in the end, most of you know we've got this this AI named Holly, and we're certainly going to talk about the activity, or I should say the lack of activity from Holly today. So got some good things lined out for everyone today. All right, Steve. So
Yes.
I tell you what, you want to go over the, you just want to do the where we are in the market first?
Sure, yeah, just stretch that sucker out and put the spies up there. And, you know, you guys recall the big old trend line that I'd been drawing on the SPY. And I had even said that I would be surprised if we cut through it like a hot knife and butter. Well, for the most part, we did kind of cut through it like a hot knife and butter the last 2 days, but gave a lot of that back today. And so now we're on to the next levels, the horizontal lines. The horizontal lines, which Jamie just added there one perfectly, looks good, which is what we kissed today. But if you scroll back a little bit more, there's one lurking just above, which is going to be our highs back there above that highs tip. And so what happened today, as you can see, yeah, obviously we did run into that horizontal line. It was more of an impact apparently than the trend line was. But we put in kind of a good red candle, not closing near highs or narrow ranges like we've done in the last few days. And, you know, this is always a good place for a bit of a pullback. This is normal reaction, normal price action when you get to these types of levels. Even looking in the past, you can see that's what happened. But, you know, there is one little caveat down there. There's a little gap, and that gap could be there meant to be filled. It is a very likely possibility that over the next few days, price action tries to back and fill into that area, whether it's, you know, complete or not, who knows. But I think that area is going to be a level of test. So there's probably our range that we're looking at that Jamie just put in there going forward. And just like an individual stock, you know, an index like SPY, a conglomeration of all the composed stocks together, it needs to have the same type of price action. It would be very healthy to pull back and maybe test those levels and then digest a little bit sideways before making another assault on higher highs. Now, we do have earnings season, which really kicked in for us this week. We'll get to some of that earnings discussion as well, because you've really got to be on your toes on knowing exactly when each stock has their earnings, and it's a perfect example that we'll make an example of using the single stock window as part of our repertoire to make sure that everything's looking a-okay. But again, you know, market action has been continually favoring the bulls, buying the dips, but I think we ran into our headwinds here, and we're probably in for some choppy action going forward. That's what I think we got going on. You got anything to add?
Well, I'm in complete agreement with you here, Steve, because you know, I mean, there's several different scenarios that could play out. Maybe we go sideways for a while. You know, a nice tradable consolidating market would be nice. Now we're a little early. We're still in April. We still got to get through May and earnings. But you know, everybody knows what traditionally happens when we get into those summer months.
Sell in May, go away?
Yeah, and that's
That's the
typically
action.
when you do see the slow markets. However, the past couple of summers have been a little bit different. You know, why, I don't exactly know. But
Well, we have an
you know,
election year.
if I had my druthers, I'd love to see, you know, once we get through earnings, a nice consolidation somewhere in this area, moving on out, leading up into the fall. We just don't know. like, if anybody was out there listening to the webinar yesterday that Steve hosted, and I'm sure Dan probably, talked about this a little bit, is that, things, all bets are off in earnings because it's about that consistency, right? Just like a new stock that's in play today, it's going to be a much different animal than a stock that's trading, slightly above or below normal volume. So, if we can have a nice little conducive market for the summer months, that would be really great. But we've all got front row seats to check it out.
Yeah, we're going to do as we normally do. We're going to set up a few price alerts and discuss the reasoning, the logic behind them. I believe that Jamie does also have a unique strategy that he said he wants to back test. And just to chip in here, Mike says he'd love it if we could expand a little bit more on covering the optimization tab and digging into the time symbol price and even other filters, doing the manual optimization. So if we have time, we'll certainly try and touch on that, Mike. We will also, like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of stock setups. And yeah, at the end, if we have a good back test, if it's something of interest, well then we'll go ahead and drop that cloud link into the chat for those that that want it. But it makes all the sense in the world to at least talk about it and explain it first before we hand it out. But time permitting, we'll get to that as well.
Absolutely. So I've got a nice little strategy queued up for everybody to take a look at and download the cloud link, as well as Steve and I have prepared a couple of, well, more than a couple, I think 6 or 7 limit alerts that we're going to throw out there towards the end of the session as well. So to get started here, just to refresh everybody's memory real quick here, first we're going to talk about our lists and maybe some alert windows too, because that's where we find the action. And then we use our price alert window to capitalize on that action. So having said that, let's just make sure I'm on the right channel here. And let's pick it because this is kind of the theme of the day. Social media, right? And of course, you could be, you can apply this technique to any channel that you see here, whether it's social media, the active trading channel. But for now, we're just going to focus on the social media. So idea generation. Remember, that's what it's all about. That's why we're all here, and that's why most of you out there are subscribers to the product, because unless you have any idea generation software out there other than Trade Ideas, it's something that's a must. And I hear it all the time. I was saying this 10 years ago, to people that I would train. I'm like, look, of course I'm a little bit biased, but if Trade Ideas all of a sudden you woke up the next day and it was not there, there'd be a lot of people in a world of hurt because you'd be blind. It'd be figuratively speaking, you would be blind. You'd have to find all new sources of information, which by no means would be a simple feat. All right, so where is the action? Well, we pulled up the social media channel here, and here we go. Most discussed and trending up, most discussed and trending down. So, keep in mind, it's not, it's a hunt. We're hunting alpha, right? So, looking at these symbols here, if we just kind of leisurely start cracking through these guys, and most of you are familiar with the long-term setups that Steve and I have been proponents of over the last dozen webinars. And so I just clicked on AMRN. Does anything stand out right here on the daily? Would have been great to have been in it back here. This is a great example of one that worked out just like we hope it would, because we draw the line straight across here, boom. I put out, I was talking to some guys the other day about some of these simple chart patterns, and I'm like, can you draw a straight line? Okay, well then you've got 50% of the skill set necessary. The other part is just identifying the pattern, right? And as we like to say all the time, in this huge data stream that is chaotic at best, that's the name of the game. Harnessing quality information and then putting it in simple terms. So really, it just doesn't get much simpler than this. So this is one that would have went. We would have liked to have been in it. When we look at something like this, not so interesting. It's Google, right? EBIO. Okay, boom, my eyes just got a lot wider. Pull up EBIO, we're looking at the daily here, and I'll expand it out a little bit. But when I see things like this, I like it. Number one, because of the smooth consolidation and the recent perk up in activity.
And volume.
And the volume. And then look what we have right here. We got a nice void. So if we are right on this, and it cracks there, and of course, you know, Steve and I always like to try to be early to the party, because a lot of the times, I think the other one that's setting up like this, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is LinkedIn, right?
Right, exactly.
And, you know, if I just kind of pop over here real quick, hey, that animal looks like it should belong in the same cage with EBIO, uncanny, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially when we've got the void there, they're extra special.
Yep.
So, you know, hey, I'm on my alpha hunt. This is the third symbol I clicked on, and I found some potential energy, some potential alpha, right? So all I have to do is take the high of this candle, you know, if I really want to be textbook, or, you know, if you really want to get an early jump, maybe you could use the high from the prior day. But just sticking to the textbook example, the high there was, of course, I can't see my little info panel. Let me stretch this out a little bit. There we go. So, by the way, when I'm looking at these prices, I'm looking at this information over here. So the high there's $1.13. So it's really easy just to go right-click, $1.13 from below. If it rises, we want to go long. Super nice daily with a void. Voila. That's it. That's the process. Okay. Is there anything else out there? So we just continue this process. GLBL. Now this one's interesting as well. It's not near as pristine and pretty, and there's no void, but it still looks pretty interesting from, you know, this nice little base camp area right here, so we know what our downside is. And then as soon as it, you know, it popped above there, it's going. Now, we all know that stocks don't just break out and go straight up. Now, who knows if this one's going to run tomorrow and the next day? We've got, well, if we consider these 2 consecutive up days, and that might even be one. So we're looking at a potential of 4, but it's not like they're all, it's not like those bars look like this inverted. You know, it's not just boom, boom, boom. So in this case, we want to try to exercise a pullback. Now, Steve, I'm thinking right there about 280 or so.
Yep, the top of that level. I mean, it's just enough of kind of a half of a give back on that green candle. In my mind, I'd rather not chase a stock. I'd rather bid it and not get it. But, you know, it's all about risk reward, and the entry is most of the risk reward. The better the entry you can give yourself, the more risk you can allow.
Yeah,
otherwise, yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. It makes a difference. You chase it, you buy it, you get stopped out. So it was a losing proposition. Pullback fill, instead of getting stopped out, you get it, and now you've got a better entry. Doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it's kind of like kissing cousins with commissions and or slippage, right? Gross equity curve looks fantastic, but hey, what about the fees that we have to pay? So, you know, kind of in the same family there. Opportunity, missed opportunity cost and whatnot. All right, so GLBL, we've already identified 2 candidates, and we're not even 5 symbols deep yet. All right, so once again, ETE, a nice example of what we want them to do. A little too late. This one's not even worth, you know, wasting a pullback fill for. I mean, you could, but once we see this type of activity, you know, the pristine pattern that we were chasing is no longer in play. Yep. So, you know, we could keep going through this list, you know, and this is all just on the fly, ladies and gents. There's no, you know, it's just looking and becoming familiar with the pattern that you're searching for.
And then again, on this channel, there's a reason these are being discussed, so something's going on.
Right, and you know, I'll add to that because you know some of the strategies that have been performing here lately are looking at the StockTwits social media stream, and it really has become one of my favorites as of late because when I look at the patterns that are being generated, my eyes like them, my brain likes them. It's just it's kind of a little love fest there because you're like, oh, well, the risk is so small. How can I not make the trade? And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but was it the ADS the other day? Was that from Mob or was it a different one?
Oh,
I
you're
can't.
taxing my 49-year-old brain. I don't know.
Right. I want to say I could be wrong, and if we have time later on, I'll try to pull it out. But that was just a random thought that came into my mind. So hopefully everybody is with me on this so far. Now that's most discussed and trending up today. What about most discussed and trending down? You know, just start to go through these patterns here, and just because they were trending down today doesn't mean that they're out of the category of being good longs, right? Some of these that are trending down today could be backing and filling people on our pullback fills like, what we did just a minute ago, right? So once again, just clicked on this one, LNCO, and this one's been very active lately, and now it's starting to form a little base camp, a little consolidation action there. The volume is still pretty good. We're looking at 5 million, 6 million, 6.1 million there, or no, actually 2 million. But in any case, this should look familiar. We take the top of this bar right here. Of course, this is a 52-cent stock, so I'm not going to really bother with it. I mean, it's the pattern that we're talking about. Which, hey, why not? I mean, it can still go. So 52 cents would be there. From below, so it's rising above. Nice daily break. And so everybody needs to keep in mind when we're setting these limit alerts, it's a cumulative effort because you might set up 10 and 2 or 3 days later you might have 5 losers and 5 winners, but the goal is to be up X amount of points after everything is said and done. So, the methodology here is, where do we find the action? Well, if we find that from our lists and our alert windows, then we use that found information and put it into our limit alerts. And of course, this one's not the prettiest thing, but just to keep reiterating the process here, maybe a penny above there, 230. It's just a high quality alert, right? People ask me all the time, let's see, let me pull up a good example here on the daily, right? These trades are out here each and every day, on big liquid stocks. And, really, I hate to keep beating the horse that is drawing a few straight lines here and there. But, if we can find these guys and all of a sudden everybody on StockTwits is talking about it and it's right here and your risk is right back here and they're talking about it right here, hey, that's what I like to see. And this is a nice little example of it today, And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, these patterns were out there all day today due to the nature of the market. Now, there were some inverse ones as well. But the ones that worked predominantly were the ones that were either being talked about on social media or had extremely high volume or had both going on at the same time. So when they're both going on and you get a pattern like this brought up in front of you, whether it's to the upside on an up day or the downside on a down day, it just doesn't get any simpler as this, in this case it's just a simple range break, right? But regardless of the pattern that you're looking for, the higher quality the information source to begin with, the better position you're going to be in to actually have that stock do what you think it might do.
It was a good question, and I did respond to it, asking any thoughts on ACTG, which is a really good looking setup going into earnings today, but I'm not exactly sure how it's going to come out tomorrow. So we need to see how the stock reacts in the AM. Sometimes you get one move in one direction in the after hours, but I think the point is, you know, all bets can be off this time of year in earnings season. Some of these alerts that we're going to set going forward might very well actually trigger on a gap up because of earnings, but that's just the nature of where we are on the calendar right now.
Right, and that's a great time to talk about this one real quick. I don't mean to jump the gun here, but this was one of the alerts that we were going to farm out to everybody at the end of the webinar, Shield. And the trigger point, I believe, Steve, that we used
Was that high of today? Was the high of today?
Right. Yeah, it was the high of today. Right. Well, look what Shield is doing post-market.
Looks like it might gap up tomorrow. We'll see.
Right. Right. Now, did they announce today?
I believe so, because let's do this real quick because we're going to want to do it anyway. Bring up the single stock, because this becomes part of the simplicity of the routine of the method, and we can add anything we want to these single stock alerts. A lot of it has to do with just a quick glance for using these for a fundamental window, and most importantly, when's the earnings date? Let's pop Shield in there, and I'm guessing it's going to be a zero value. There you go, a zero, blank. Throw any other stock in there at random, and you'll see a number value. Now let's put, we did Yahoo just Yahoo was last week, was it? I lost track already. I believe it. Go ahead and type Yahoo in.
Yeah, it should see, I'm sorry. You mean Google or Yahoo, Steve? Well, my fingers are not doing what they need to.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Negative. So the negative value means it's behind us. Those are good. I mean, that's kind of what we want to see now, negative values, so we can know that there might be some juiced up potential energy in these stocks reacting to a new equilibrium based on how the earnings come out and based on everybody's models and what they think. You know, Barry in the trading room loves this time of year because this is where you can really get some nice moves where there's not so much back and forth indecision. No, we've got some moves we've got to get from point A to point B because all of our models have now shifted based on the latest earnings. So, you know, we're going to hammer into you guys today to keep an eye on this single stock window as we go through and look at these things and double check that we don't have a 1 or a 2 in there where we're a day away from earnings and we don't know it, because there's nothing worse than getting drilled on earnings, because I can tell you from experience the trading gods are not kind to you when you do that. You know, it seems like more often than not when you make a mistake, a mental mistake like that, you get punished for it. I tell people all the time, the trading gods and the golf gods, they share the same office floor.
They're roommates. They're roommates. Okay, so, you know, also, ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at what I just did here, on any top list that you watch actively or an alert window, of course, it's a little easier to manage in the top list format. But you see I just added the earnings date column. So eventually, you know, just right off the bat here, I can see everybody and how many days out they are from earnings. And, you know, just to reiterate what Steve said, earnings are chaos. They don't make any sense because a company can blow away expectations and still gap down, you know, or vice versa.
Speaking of, when's GoPro coming out with earnings?
Well, let's just take a look here.
I want to make a prediction on this.
Almost a little over 10 days from now.
All right.
Yep.
I feel that GoPro has had the crap beaten out of it, in and out, for the last couple months. I really feel like what Jamie just said is we never really know how the market's going to react to it. I feel in this case that GoPro could become one of those stocks that is just waiting for earnings to come out to get it behind it, because even the crappiest earnings are probably already priced in down here at these levels. I like the way the chart looks for the most part on the daily. You look at that little hiccup there. I mean, these look like a lot of the charts that we focus on, you guys. So I'm going out not as a representative of Trade Ideas. We went through that disclaimer. I'm not an RIA, but I think even if GoPro announces crappy earnings, this could be one of the cases where it doesn't care. It's going to gap up anyway because it's there. It's already priced in. It was just waiting for confirmation.
Absolutely. I concur. Okay, so once again, getting back to our little technique here, where's the action? Well, we derived that from our channels and the windows contained within, whether they're top list windows or alert windows. So, you know, we can apply the same methodology to any of these channels. You know, if I come over here and say, okay, what was going on in the active trading room today? So here we are in the active trading channel. And we can derive some of the same data from these guys right here, especially leading into earnings can show us some very interesting stuff, because here we're looking at stocks that are up and down the most, but are taking their nice pullbacks before they either continue or reverse. Of course, we never know. So we go through the same process. We start looking at them on the charts. And it's just simple methodology here. We just go until we see something that catches our eye. CPLP.
Yep, that
Looks
kind of
on
caught
it,
my eye. Looks like a
you
little
know.
little head and shoulders bottom,
Mm-hmm.
inverted head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it. Kind of things we're looking for. It's building a little base, building a higher low, building another higher low, and a third higher low if you even. It's starting to really frustrate those shorts.
Right. Right. So once again, it's just an Easter egg hunt, and you don't find anything unless you go looking. But it's really a simple process.
One of the things I was saying last night, if you weren't in last night's webinar, is that it can be really intimidating. There's so much going on between the bells. There's so much activity on social media. There's so many tickers whizzing by and stuff coming at you, and news and this and that and macro and guitar legends like Prince dying and things coming at you. I just had to throw that in there.
A very sad day.
So the point being is that I mentioned chance favors the prepared mind, and the more we can try and simplify a process and a method, the easier it can be during the day to react accordingly in a zen, unemotional-like state of mind, because we've done our homework and we've prepared our mind for what it is we like about it and what it is we plan on doing about it. So, this is it's the daily preparation homework that I do and that Jamie does, and we're just trying to really show you how we use trade ideas to simplify this process into a very easy to follow type of program, because I get how distracting it can be during the day with everything flying at you and everything coming at you. If you have a little bit of prepared work ahead of time, you'll be surprised how many of those alerts go off and work out to the good side for you, just because you put in a little homework.
Right, and everybody, I'm just going to shift over to this window right here, which is part of the Active Trader channel, or the Active Trading channel. Turbo breaks up, a little configuration that is so simple. That is the beauty of it. It's such a simple configuration that I drummed up, I don't know, going back 9 years. But it really resonates because, going back to that same pattern that we're looking for on the daily, you can apply that same pattern to intraday. So like if we just show the history here and we start scanning all these stocks that this little guy produced today, you're going to find some of the same patterns but on an intraday level. And I'm just kind of randomly scrolling through here, but we should probably get back down to where we had a little bit of meat left in the day. Because when you start seeing things like this, of course, a little anomalous there, but you can see the same pattern presenting itself. Well, look, this guy, he's topping out, it's coiling up. Something's going to happen eventually, and of course, this one, had you been scoping this guy out, now I have to ask myself, Steve, and of course I don't know just by looking at this until I compare some other chart patterns or platforms, but whether or not that was real, maybe it was. There was about 240,000 shares traded in that 5-minute period. But you see the methodology is the same. If you would have found this guy about right here when it was trading, and you're like, okay, there's the high. It's the exact same thing. We just draw a line straight across. Okay, well, if you did buy it, as soon as it cracked there was a little wiggle, profitability. Now, if this was real, that would have been a great time to scalp out unless you're holding it long term. But even if this wasn't real, then you still had exit potential right here. And of course, this little guy doesn't move a whole lot in dime clips, but it's not that we're focusing on. It's the pattern. It's the pattern. And if you're watching a window such as Turbo Breaks, what I like to say about that window all the time is we're removing the volume equation right off the bat. So as things come through, all you have to do is see if it's conducive to the pattern that you like or not. Simple as that. Once again, don't mean to sound like a broken record on the simplicity factor, but it is what it is.
That's what we're trying to do, is make it simple. That's what makes things work.
Okay, so we're burning through time here pretty quick, Steve, so we better go ahead and shift over to the odds maker and the simpler optimization
Okay.
techniques.
Yep.
And let me dig through my pile of stuff over here. I've covered that window up somehow. But we're going to be keeping on the social media bandwagon for today. Lots of good trades came through today on the old stock twits. Of course, keep in mind, everybody, we get the feed from them. So just like the market feed is all crazy and archaic and you can't make sense of it, it's like white noise on a television, we have to tune that station in. So I'm not just blindly following anything that's coming through the social media stream. That still has to be refined and optimized as well. So those of you who are AI subscribers, you'll see every once in a while a strategy makes the cut called mob long. And, you know, it's not one of these strategies that spits out a million trades and it doesn't make the cut every time, but it seems like when it does make the cut, it's like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. Well, when
Who remembers that?
when it speaks, you better listen because it's some interesting stuff. So here is an alert window that I've crafted out, and I'm going to right-click. We're going to pop in here and just take a look at the configuration. So the strategy is based around the StockTwits activity spike. And we could put a ratio in here. If we leave it blank, we can just let it find whatever is out there without any predetermined criteria. Or we could just start off and say, look, I don't want to see anything unless it's being talked about at least twice normal. But we'll do some little experimentation here. Everybody can see I've got some volume requirements in here, just trying to keep the riffraff out, the real thinly traded stuff. And then really it's about applying a lot of market directional filters so, you know, we can apply more or less a safety type net, okay? If the market's really cratering to the downside, we don't want something sitting here spitting out a bunch of longs and vice versa. So we don't want the market, you know, going crazy one way or the other if we're going to start taking trades from this thing. But the caveat and the little interesting piece of information here is that this is looking at a specific list. And as you can see here, mob long top 100. So this list only contains 100 stocks. So to give you an idea of the process, this is the refined product. But before, let me show you what it looked like before. There were none of these guys in here.
When you see a lot of those values, 0.999, a lot of that is optimized from, correct? Or was that you that did that?
That was me that did that.
Okay.
Manual
Yeah.
optimization, right? And
Yeah.
so when I first started out, it looked like this. I wasn't pointing to a custom list. I was just saying all symbols.
Mm-hmm.
I only had this filter here, so try to keep the riffraff out. This price level maxed out at 119.99, and then on the smart stop, since we're implementing that for risk control, I don't want to be risking $5 on a trade, right? So I've capped it. I'm like, okay, the most I can lose on a trade via the smart stop is going to be $1.50. That's my comfort level, right, for these plays that are coming through. So then I ran the back test as is, starting 30 minutes after the open. These are geared towards 60-minute hold times. So we don't necessarily want to keep taking trades till the close because, you know, stopping an hour before gives us ample time to make an exit. Risk management, we're using the smart stop filter. And we're not really capping the upside just yet because keep in mind, everybody, when you're using the back tester and you're going on that exploratory journey the first time, you know, you're just doing it to reveal information, and then you dial it in once you find you're on the right path. So on the advanced, not a lot of crazy stuff going on here, not using any of that stuff. and we're just going to do a period of 40 days. So when we say buy, what you're going to see is the odds maker doing its thing. It's going to come back with a whole lot of trades. And then I'll sketch the broad strokes on how we got to the finished product. Okay, so it just returned 3,965 trades over a 40-day period.
It's a coin flip. Look at that, 49.7.
It is a coin flip. It is a coin
That
flip.
doesn't matter.
Now, just as a little rule of thumb, when I am going on a brand new safari and I don't know what to expect at all, I like to see them coming in a little bit higher than this. You know, typically I like to see them above 50% because that lets you know there's meat on the bone, right? And especially if you see just on a bulk scan a nice, you know, that the average winner is actually larger than the biggest loser, right? So, you know, obviously, you know, we could go back and look at all these days, but it'd be kind of pointless. There's just way too many trades in there, and we need to try to tighten things up a little bit. So, first and foremost, optimization and symbol. So, right off the bat, it's showing me these are the top 10 symbols that have done the best with the scan that we just ran, having at least one occurrence in the 40-day period. Of course, we want to have a little bit more selection, you know, a little bit more candidates in there. You know, if we're running a race, you know, it's no fun if just one guy's running, right? There's usually 5, 6, 7 guys in there for obvious reasons. So we could do this. We could say, okay, how about showing me the top 50 performers and bump up the frequency? 3. Now we can see, you know, here's the frequency, the number of times they've been triggered in that period. So without boring you guys with all the details, pulling up spreadsheets and whatnot, I'm going to show you once you divulge these symbols and you're like, okay, well now I'd just like to pop these into a list, but I notice I can't right click and copy or anything like that. So you just highlight one of these guys and hit Control A. That's going to copy everything, or that's going to highlight everything. And then we just hit Control C, and it copies everything in that grid. You would then post that to a spreadsheet and just isolate that column. So that's an easy way to, you know, whether it's in this panel or even in an alert window, if you want to copy all those symbols out of it, easy to do, but you just have to hit you have to use the control buttons.
So your next step that you're going to demonstrate is how to drop the symbol list in there. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? I tell you what.
The reason I ask is somebody's been having trouble with that, and so I thought if I could seamlessly move it into your presentation.
Yeah, let me pull up a spreadsheet real quick here, and I will show you the exact procedure.
So this is for Robert. Yeah, this is for Robert, who's asking about, he's having trouble trying to isolate trade ideas window, whether it's a top list or an alert, it doesn't matter. He wants to isolate just a universe of stocks that he uses, and only he. So we can do that using the symbol list feature.
Absolutely. Okay. So here I have a blank spreadsheet, just your run-of-the-mill Google spreadsheet. I come in here, I hit Control A. That lights them all up. Then I hit Control C. Then all I have to do is come over here and say Edit, Paste. Okay, for some reason it put them down here, but that's okay. So all I'd have to do is to capture this symbol column is just click here, right click, copy. So I've captured all those symbols, right? Next on the list, Tools, Symbol List. Now we can just say social media, come down here, find it, there it is, it's empty. Now we just say edit list. And all I have to do, right click, paste. You won't necessarily see anything in there unless you scroll all the way to the top, but as soon as you click OK, boom. Now there were only 50 stocks in my list. Why is it showing 51? That's because it always captures a header called symbol. So as soon as I remove that, boom, there are my 50 symbols. Okay? So now we go back to our alert window. Make sure this is the right one. Yep. Symbol list tab. So we're going to say only the following list. Now, when you first create a brand new list, let me make sure none of these are checked. Okay, we're good there. Now, when you first create a brand new symbol, it will not show up here. You have to first click this button, find our list that we just made. There it is right there. Obviously, the blue ones are already showing up here. So as soon as I click social media, keeps them in alphabetical order. So now I say only the following list, social media. Of course, we could even eliminate this now that we're looking at that custom list. So I don't know how much better this is going to look because I haven't tweaked it all the way yet, but this will give you an idea of whether your list is improving things. But for some reason, we're not getting a status bar. But hopefully, hopefully the process that I just showed you, everything from coming here, Control A, Control C, dumping them into a spreadsheet, highlighting the column, and then posting them up into your symbol list. Hopefully that's clear. If anybody ever needs any specific help on that, you can always reach out to myself or Steve. We'd be happy to walk you through it. It's a quick process, so no worries there. So let's try to run this back test one more time. Let's make sure we're pointed to the right symbol. List, only the following list, social media, and go. Okay.
You said the magic word that time.
Yes.
Looking better already. Look at that.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, that was just capturing the symbols from here. All right, we haven't even went through to apply any more stuff, any more filters that could even improve this further. But it's a very powerful technique. So
what does time of day look like? Is there any meat that to be shaved off time of day?
Right. Oh, good point.
Look at that.
You know, we could drop all these guys right here. It's like
let's do that and rerun it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is the whole idea of optimization.
This is optimization in its purest form. So if we stop at 9:29, I think that was the cutoff date or cutoff time. Yep. And I'll just put this one back over. So that was prior results. Okay, look we just went from a profit factor of 3.29 to a profit factor of 6. Increase the spread between winner and loser, decrease the amount of trades, and wow, win percentage went from 60 to 70%.
On less trades.
And of course, you know, if we do it anymore, we're going to shave off too many trades because over a 40-day period,
that's averaging 5 trades a day.
That's a nice little count right there. And then when we look at the daily, okay, over the past 40 days, oh yeah, you know, this isn't too bad. It's a little toothy. It's a little toothy, but still not a bad strategy, especially from just a basic optimization with a couple of mouse clicks, right? So, you know, you could always try to do this further, but since the trade count is coming down significantly, you know, I'm kind of tempted just to watch this one for tomorrow. However, you know, we've always got something a little different. So if we go, you know, and once again, I added all these manually. So I'm going to show you on this one that we just ran how I went about that process. So we go to optimization, we click here, and then we have access to every filter that Trade Ideas has. So we come down here to the S&P change. So we have daily all the way from the 10, 15, 30, and the 5. So I'm like, okay, could we do anything on the S&P change on the 15-minute? Well, we could lose one trade. Maybe that's worth doing, maybe it's not. However, if we did want to change max to 0.39, look how easy it is. You don't have to go back to the window and add that filter. You just right click here and we say set max value, pulls the window up for you, click, click, boom. Now that setting is stuck. Now what about these other time frames? Okay, well, we could drop it here as well, because what we're doing here is we're making sure the market hasn't ran too much before one of these trades is issued.
And what Jamie's doing right now is what Holly does in Lightspeed every evening over a million times.
Exactly, because, you know, hey, yeah, Jamie can sit here and maybe come up with something good, but he can't run 40 scans simultaneously and optimize and backtest 40 strategies simultaneously. That's what Holly's doing every night to produce those strategies that show up in the hopper.
Yeah, and Nathan's correct. It's really a nice feature to be able to just go in and click and right-click and change your configurations like Jamie was demonstrating there a second ago.
Right, so long story short, if you put in a little time and follow that procedure, you know, eventually what you end up is something like this.
Is this the one you're going to share with everybody, Jamie?
Sure, I don't mind kicking this link out. So now when we look at the daily, it's not quite as toothy as the other one. We got a little bit more meat on the bones there, and of course some days it doesn't trade. But here's the real interesting information that a lot of people overlook down here. Most winning days in a row, 21. Most losing days in a row, 2. Well, of course, you know, everybody would hate, even though there's only 2, you know, once a strategy has been performing like this, nobody even likes to see any, but I mean, that's a pretty phenomenal win rate, you know, looking back over the past 40 days. And if we start looking at these stocks, you know, it's not like the people on StockTwits are going to be all chattering about some thinly traded stock that nobody can trade, right? So if we just look at the things that this guy spit out yesterday, it was a little overactive yesterday because it spit out 18 trades and only won seven of them, but it still scraped out $1.20 or a little over a point. And if you were early to the punch, you know, it got SLB for 1.6 points. You know, that'd be a nice way to start the day. You know, of course, that was about an hour and 15 minutes into the open. But like, you know, 7 of 11 trades on Tuesday, 5 of 9 on Monday, and you know, if we just go back and keep looking, it's just more of the same. So we'll throw this out there, the cloud link with the limit alerts, and we better get to Holly.
Why don't you throw it in there now while you're thinking about it?
Yeah, sure. We'll do that as well.
We don't want to cram it in at the end and then we shut the webinar down and somebody didn't get it.
I agree. So let me pull up my chat panel, and I'm going to throw this one in. And I'm also going to have to throw in the symbol list that it's watching.
Right.
And I'll just throw that into a spreadsheet format. And we'll take it from there. So let me go find this list real quick. And by the way, okay. There it is. We just right click, and this is another cool thing. If you ever need to extract a symbol list, right click, select all, right click, copy. Okay, I'll just save this as a regular, okay, Google, why are you doing this to me? Where's the save? Download as a Microsoft Excel file. And I will drop that right into that should work in the chat window as well, Steve?
Yeah, why not? I think so.
That is giving me a okay. All right, well, I'm being denied on that. Maybe that's in the handouts?
Hmm.
Hey, Scott, you listening there, buddy?
What are you looking for?
I need to drop a spreadsheet in with a custom list. Did we do that in the chat area last time, or the?
There's a panel on your GoToWebinar interface that says handouts. I think it's usually
Right.
under attendees by default. You can just kind of expand that, and there's a place to drop it.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, if you drag and drop over there, it should pop in there for everybody.
Okay, Scott, so I'm looking at my attendees.
Underneath it, there's another one that should say handouts.
Okay.
Or near there. Or if you don't see it, go up to the top, click on View, and then click on, and then check the thing next to handouts to show it, so it displays.
Questions, polls, dashboard. Huh. For some reason, I'm not seeing it.
Are you on web version or download?
No, I'm on the client version.
Huh, strange. Okay.
Why don't you shoot it to me and I'll put it in handouts, Jamie? I can see it.
Hey, easy enough, easy enough. Yeah. Sorry for the technical delay, ladies and gentlemen. We will get this over to you as soon.
The cloud link is in the chat window, Robert. Thank you.
All right, Steve, pop that bad boy in.
Yeah, I will. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll take care of it.
Okay, and last but not least, as some of you may recall, we do have this AI that we invented named Holly. So Holly was pretty quiet today. So let's just take a quick look at the things that Holly did. And, you know, before we get into this, which there wasn't a whole lot of craziness today. Everything looked pretty tame. The takeaway here is that, you know, here's what my routine was this morning. You know, I get up, I start drinking my coffee before the market. I look at, you know, the hopper that Holly provided today with these strategies in it, and right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, well, I personally think based on what I see here, it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a big long day based on just the number of strategies that showed up. You know, and what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which that's not really on the lighter side. We've seen it with a lot less than that. But as you get to know these strategies, you know, right off the bat, I knew escalation exhibit, you know, it was only going to fire if market conditions are right to the upside, and these were all-day holds. So, you know, 30 minutes into the open, I already had my, you know, my idea that it was going to into the open. We saw this fire, but then it went cold, right? Nothing else was being produced. And yesterday for Holly, but when we look at what the market's been doing, it's not that big of a surprise. You know, when we get up into this area right here, there's going to be some digestion to be had, and those are the slower days. Volume was okay on the SPY today, but, you know, the analysis tells the story. And sure enough, we only had a small handful of trades here. We had 5, let's see, 12, 13, and 17 trades. So while the trade count wasn't that small, the end result was, you know, after everything was said and done, down 23 cents. You know, was there anything left on the table today? Because yesterday, I forget the symbol, yesterday, Steve, one of the stocks that Holly got into and it went sideways for an hour and she made like, what, 7 or 8 cents on it, and then it just ripped over a point, right?
It's taxing me again. I can't recall.
Not important, but we didn't see any of those today. Matter of fact, if we start taking a look at this non-exit column, and once again, for everybody out there, just to reiterate, this is showing us what would have happened if we didn't get stopped out or we didn't take our profit when Holly took hers. It keeps tracking the position after your exit or your stop out. So, 40 cents versus 32 cents, could have made if you held that one on the GLBL, which when we look on the intraday was right here, kind of a hairy little thing, made 2 cents, could have milked another 13 cents out of it. But usually we like to see a lot more disparity between here and here. So the one that sticks out, ENDP, it was a short strategy that produced this one. And of course we can see Holly gets short right here. It doesn't work. Gets stopped out pretty quickly for a 25-cent loser. But as we always like to say, once you're made aware of this, you're like, well, Holly tried to short it. It's strong. It's also a pharmaceutical, or is that's not Endo Pharmaceuticals, is it?
I don't think so.
Case, ENDP. In any case, didn't work on the short. So keep this one on your radar because it was still produced by Holly, and a lot of the times there's something else there. So you get stopped out, didn't work on the short. Whether you started monitoring it here and started drawing some lines right here, or whether you wait for it to put in this high right here and go, okay, took a little dip, now it's doing it sideways in our 7 dance. We always know something's going to happen. So whether you shorted this little guy right here, or whether you waited, drew some lines down here, you just do some marking up, and it tells you you're making your own pivot points, basically. So, still some interesting stuff going on in that stock today. Even though Holly got stopped out on a short, that's still good information. And as we always like to say, Holly is just another version of a top list or an alert window. There's just a lot more computing power being pumped in to the things that she's providing you with. So especially after the week that Holly had last week and where we are in the range, seeing her perform like this today, not too shabby. And last but not least, just so everybody can see, with today's update, of course the SPY hasn't filled in, but we all know what that's going to be. We're still maintaining a pretty decent gap, and hopefully Holly is experiencing a little NR7 pattern here before she takes the next leg up.
Well, Scott and I have been trying to figure out a way to get those symbol lists in there. I'll tell you what, everybody, if it doesn't make it in there, you can
It's just throwing an error trying to add another file into the handouts.
Yeah.
It might be because of the steepened.
Okay, well,
and we didn't add it at the beginning.
We can have them email info@trade-ideas, and we can send out the text file that way, I suppose.
Or I could just dump the list right in here, and everybody could just highlight it and copy it.
It's only
it's
get
only
your copy and paste ready together.
Well,
Yep. Go for it.
Yeah, it's only 100 symbols, and Brad and I do it through Skype chat all the time. So
I can do it too because I've got them right here handy. Let me just go ahead and do that. I've copied them, and I'm going to drop them into chat, right?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Bam. There you go, everybody. Copy and paste. Should have just done that in the first place.
Yeah, and so just, all you're going to do, guys, is just highlight the whole thing, right-click, and copy. Easy peasy. All right, well, hey, time flies when you're having fun. Scott, if you're ready to jump in here and tell everybody about the coupon codes and the packaging and the pricing.
Yeah, so our software as a service is a subscription based. The primary subscription is $99 a month. It includes all of your exchange real-time data fees, charting. Also, real important, the one-on-one training with screen sharing. So as soon as you sign up for Trade Ideas, go to the support section, click on training, and pick your preferred time and date. The annual plan is only $888 a year and saves you a ton over the $99, and that includes all the same stuff. Now, to get access to Holly, the new stuff like the price limit alerts, our backtesting module, the odds maker, requires a one-time license purchase of an $1,100 license. It's a one-time fee, and it's a lifetime. All you need to go along with that is an active subscription, and you get Holly, the AI, to find trades that are performing right now. And you're able to backtest and optimize your strategies with no programming. It's pretty cool. So a handout that actually made it into the handouts panel is there for you. It's a PDF if you want to look at your handouts panel and you go to webinar interface and download it. It's going to give you the same specials that are on the next couple slides. So the code HOLLY, all capitals, 420 for this week because yesterday was 420. So HOLLY, all caps, HOLLY 420. That takes half off your first month if you're not currently a subscriber, or 20% off your first year. So you can try us out for just $49, no contract, just give it a shot. Renews at $99. You can pick up the odds maker for 30% off. That gives you the AI and all that good stuff. Only $770 lifetime. It's a great upgrade if you already got a subscription. Now that code expires the end of business on Friday, so if you want to lock in this kind of thing, just use it. If you go to a page to get both the, we made it easy for you to get a combination of both the year and lifetime odds maker and save. So if you go to the link, you see bit.ly/AI Holly, all caps. It needs to be just like that. That's a short code that'll take you right to the page where you can also use, click through and then use that code and save over 500. So the year and lifetime odds maker is 1988 total, but with the code it takes it down to 1480. So over $500 saves you right there. Really great stuff. And the PDF, you should just be able to click right through it and go straight to that page. Thanks everyone for coming. The recording will be up later tonight or tomorrow morning. If you have any questions or want help with anything, email us at info@trade-ideas.com. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jamie. Have a good one.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Cheers.